Yes.
Let's move on to the men's competition. Nathan Chen was the winner here. He had a big mistake on the quad toe in the short program, and it cost him points because obviously he did not have a combination. Enough to win the program, just barely, but he came out as the winner there. Short program is full of choreography. It is jam packed. It is character driven. It is a lot of fun. Something's always going on. It's like a sprint almost for 2 minutes 50 seconds, however long the short program is now. Free skate though, I have to say this it's really nothing for the first 2 minutes, and I understand there's a few things going on here. The men are down to 4 minutes. There's a lot of preparation needed for quads for many of these men, so they're focusing on that. Second of all, the scores, like we said, if you're getting the high scores, why try to increase the difficulty with all these high elements? But for Nathan, I really think if you watch the first 2 minutes of the free skate, it's really just going from one end of the rink to the other. And I know that he's capable of more just based on seeing his short program. What do you guys think?
I think that's just it. I'm a big fan of Nathan. I really respect what he does. I like his skating a lot. But I agree with you that he is just capable of more. And there is no way that Mary France and Sam choreographed that long, those first 2 minutes at least, in what he is doing right now. That was not the original choreography. Because there is no choreography. And I totally understand, like, he does need to save energy. He has such a technically difficult program. He does need to prepare for these quad jumps. And I don't mind seeing somebody prepare for a quad jump at the corner or at the quad. But he starts his program and he doesn't take the time to create a mood or create a character. He just goes and pumps, crosscut
Yeah.
around. And then does the same thing to the other end of the ice and the same thing to the other end of the ice. Something else in his long program, both his toes and both his flips, that's 4 jumps, are in the exact same spot on the ice. On the same side, on the same curve.
And
that's a composition that should be a composition issue. You don't even ever want to put 2 spins in the same spot. And he came around the same corner and on the same pattern and in the same spot and did both those quad flips and both those quad toes in the long. And I'm just curious if I was the only one who noticed, or it was something that the judges do pay attention to.
Meagan, what I wanted to ask you actually is we see that he's doing the quad toe and the quad flip from a curve rather than a straight line. I know from my personal experience, when I was trying double flip, not triple or quad, but when I was trying a double flip, it was a lot easier for me to go in on that curve because that toe pick didn't necessarily have to be exactly in that right spot as if you go in on a curve. You can kind of be a little bit outside, a little bit inside, whatever. Do you think that, if we slow down his jumps, he's pre-rotating, but do you think that this is helping him to get around and kind of mask that fact by doing it from a curve?
I think it gives him momentum as he goes into the jump and on the mohawk as he prepares for the jump. His axle is also on a similar curve now, and he's had a lot more consistency with that axle this year. And it's interesting to note that his Lutz, which goes straighter, he's not doing as a quad at the past few competitions. So maybe it's something that they're playing around and testing this new technique. Going on a curve is going to be able to help him start that free rotation, which everybody's doing on their jumps. He's not the only one. And I guess that they found that formula that works. I just wish they were on a curve in different spots of the ice.
Yeah, but we have to, again, PJ and I have talked about this all year. We have to respect that he is as young as he is. He's training he's training on the other side of the country from his coach. He's FaceTiming his coach for lessons, but the majority of the work is being put in by him. He's responsible for showing up to the rink, and he's responsible for working on things that might not be going well. So in that respect, I respect him a ton. He's staying at this level. He did win this competition. I think what I'm saying, and I think what you're saying, Meagan, is that we just know based on the short program that he's capable of so much more in the free skate. And, it's just not there yet. Maybe we'll see something as he gets more confident, as he has more time. Maybe we'll start to see a stronger program. I'm just a little bit disappointed that the free skate doesn't go anywhere. PJ, what do you think?
Do you know what? I am exactly in alignment with you guys. I am completely obsessed with that short program. I could, I have like favorite YouTube playlists that I just go back to of competitions and programs that I like, and that's one of them. It's just, there's something about the way he has been invited to express that music and to express that choreography that is just so infectious, really. Like, it makes me want to get up and move. And they don't all, trust me. So, and I guess in the free program, I end up waiting for the technical magic that he's going to weave. So I'm not paying as much attention as I should be, because you guys are bringing up great points, and it wasn't until you were saying that I kind of go, oh yeah, because I get caught up in what technically is he going to be doing. So I think as he evolves as an artist, I think that we're going to see more for sure. And it's kind of exciting to think about, to tell you the truth. I mean, what a kick.
And Nathan has such great skating skills and such great interpretation quality. So exactly. I think he can do it all while combining like that ability to save his energy and prepare for his jumps.
Yep. Yeah, he looks like his jumps take no energy, to tell you the truth. He just kind of whoop, and
he's always in that solid position. Whether he lands or not, his body's always like in line. It's not awkward like we see with some of the skaters. So the technique is there. I just, and this goes back to the 4 minutes versus 4 minutes 30 seconds thing. Maybe that is part of the reason why a lot of these skaters, even Shoma Uno, who we're going to talk about in a minute, a lot of these skaters, we don't see as much in between the skating as we did before. Yeah. Maybe that has to do with the time change. And one question I do want to bring up, Meagan, you went through this. The men and the ladies still have that step sequence that takes up to a minute sometimes. It just goes on forever, and they're getting, 4 or 5 points from it. Mm-hmm. So Ice Dance took the direction this year of adding 3 choreographic elements. And it kind of gives the skaters the ability to not necessarily do anything difficult, but if it's effective and it matches the music and the character, then you can earn, almost 15 points, I believe, between the 3 elements. Do you think singles skating should go that direction as well? And then that gives them more opportunity for the in-betweens and the overall presentation of the program that we might be missing because everything is such a rush this year?
Yes, I think that it would be nice to see those creative elements added to pairs and single skating. I think that doing a level 4 step sequence does take so much time because you have to pack it with so much stuff. Plus, if you're a smart skater, you're overpacking it. Just in case you miss a turn, you're going to have 3 or 4 extras. Right. This is what a lot of skaters will do. It takes a lot of time. And in a short program, most of your PCS score is being that footwork. It's a big decision maker in terms of the PCS for the short. I wish that the single skaters could have a creative move, maybe not so much a creative sequence, because I remember watching so many guys do their creative sequence and it just looked like a footwork sequence. Mm-hmm. So I wish that there was a creative move and a creative spin that we can see people do, where they just have more freedom and it's an element that breathes as opposed to looking like jam-packed.
Right. Shoma Uno was second here. He's very hit or miss. Another big mistake in the short program. Quad flip also got hit with the under rotation there. PJ, you're a big fan of this program, I know, and I like this program as well. Meagan, what do you think about it?
I really like Shoma's skating. I think that he has a freedom to his skating, and he's very likable. I'm not a fan of his music choices all the time. I'd like to see him get a little bit more creative and explore a little bit more. But I think he's stuck with something that's comfortable to him, and he can sell a performance. But we saw a major error in the short program, and we often see just sloppy skating from him in general. That I'm kind of waiting to be all cleaned up. I don't know. Like I'm always waiting. Like it's
coming.
It's going to be cleaned up and it's going to be smooth, and then the program finishes and it's like, oh, that was a little bit sloppy and messy again. And it's like maybe next time. And then the next time comes and it's kind of the same. It's so much of the same with Shoma now, I find.
And the wild free leg on the landing edge, like it's just you just don't know for sure if he's going to go on his keister and be blade side up, or whether the blades are going to say blade side down. Because it's just a little bit. It's a bit of a crapshoot. He goes up into the air versus Nathan goes up in the air. That perfectly aligned body position, and whether he sticks it or not on the landing, you have a certain degree of confidence about it when you're watching him in the air. Yeah. Shoma is able to land stuff that really, by the laws of physics, maybe shouldn't be able to. So it's a testament to his core strength and his training that he's able to make it happen. But it's a little like,
it kind of makes it exciting, but you want it to be a little bit cleaner.
And I bet you it's not the kind of excitement he's looking for either. I bet you he'd like to feel a little bit more settled.
I think that the big thing for him is he pre-rotates a lot, and this is something that I wish the ISU would crack down on, because we're so under the microscope now with the under rotations. If you're a quarter of a turn cheat, that is under rotated, and they are really on top of that with some skaters. For the pre-rotations though, his quad flip, that blade, that toe pick turns almost a full turn on the ice before he gets up into the air. And the reason that he's landing with that wild free leg is because his upper body is so far ahead of the rest of his body that when he lands, he has to kind of shift himself. And with that, he has almost no run out, and we're seeing those high GOE again for some of these jumps. When he does land the quad flip, I don't think it's ever beautiful, but he pulls off big numbers, I think, just because of the sake of it being a quad flip and the assumption that, wow, he's pulling something off that's difficult, we have to give him points. Free skate, though.
Quad loop. His foot places in the pre-rotation, he's doing a loop as a flip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. The pressure of his blade is not on the toe pick, it's more on the flat. So. And
I totally, understand that, it's probably a bad habit, too, that is built with him. But I would like to see some steps to improving it. Mm-hmm. If little by little we could see, the smallest bit of improvement, then the smallest bit of improvement, it's okay, it's being addressed. Right now, I don't know if they address the technique on that or not. But the technique that doesn't need to be addressed is his gorgeous triple axel.
Yep. When he gets it right.
The best in the world for me, when he lands it.
Yeah. The deep knee landing, this is so traditional Japanese, but it is beautiful. His free skate is Moonlight Sonata. This is, again, I think a skater throughout history that really hasn't had the most transitions, but what he does is he matches his movement to the music to kind of cover that. Unlike Nathan, where he just starts off like it's a practice session and just goes into these jumps from corner to corner, you can see Shoma at least understands his music enough to do a movement that fits with the music, and the overall cohesion of the program starts to make sense. Again, I think one of the things they've changed this season, the PCS, if you make a major error, even one, that means a fall, a major step out, whatever that distracts the program, the PCS are not supposed to be above a certain level. And if you figure out the math, that's 90.50 points in the free skate is the highest they should be able to get. My problem with that is that someone like Shoma might be up 95, maybe 96 or something if he's, completely on. I think the judges would go that high. He makes that one mistake, he's down to an 89 or a 90. Nathan Chen, who might start at a 90, makes that big mistake, and he's down to an 89. So it's like the playing field is almost leveled by the way the ISU is defined, the major error, and the way that they have to look at these components. I think moving forward, they should really just address maybe the performance and execution score, not so much the skating skill score. I mean, you can wipe out on a jump. It doesn't really it's not going to distract from your jump. It doesn't mean that Patrick Chan's going to go from a 10.0 skater to an 8.5. It's just not, So I think that's something
it's only relevant for one category.
Exactly, yeah. And this year they've addressed it for all 5 categories, and I think in the next Congress or maybe even by next season, they really need to think about that. Because we saw, I believe in the free skate, we saw Uno had a 90, Nathan maybe had an 88 or an 89, and then Michael Brugina had an 87, which I don't agree with at all looking at these programs. So I think it's just clumping all of them together, and I think that's something they need to look at.
I wish that we would see fluctuation between these categories. I mean, there are some skaters, let's give Tarasova and Morozov, the pair team, as an example, who have exquisite skating skills. They have beautiful skating skills, and that deserves a 9.5 or a 9.75. But they're void of interpretation and they're void of transitions. So why do those not get a hit? And it's happening to skaters. I'm giving them as an example. They are not the only one. It happened to me as well. It happens to all the skaters. And I just wish that we would see more of a fluctuation, because a skater that has terrible skating skills can have a lot of transitions and a lot of really cool transitions. And, they deserve to be credited for that.
Yeah. I think that's been the story since the beginning of IJS, I think. The judges maybe have too much that they need to look at. And, you start that skating skills score at an 8.0, for example, then your transition score is probably going to be a 7.25 or 7.5. Performance is going to go right back up to where that skating skills score is. And it's kind of just all in that line every single time, regardless of what we're seeing on the ice. There is a skater, the male skater that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, that I think is a really big offender of this, and I'm not sure why he gets the components that he does. Let's move on to the bronze medalist, though. Junhwan Cha. Surprising, maybe, that he won the bronze medal here. Aside from the opening quad toe in the free skate, excellent competition all around for him. The quad salchow looks really, really consistent. I think he's missed it only once this entire season. I might be wrong, but it looks like a good jump. Quad toe doesn't look as consistent, so I'm wondering maybe if he should try a second quad salchow somewhere in the free skate. Overall thoughts, though, on his skating and where he stacks up to the top two at this point?
I think that I was very confused as well going with what you said about his quad toe attempt, as I didn't see a cleanly rotated quad toe in any practice. So I was extremely surprised that he would take that risk in the competition, knowing how severe he would be hit. So that was a little bit of a surprising strategical move, but he did show up at this competition looking extremely prepared. I think he just skates a little bit more reserved than a skater like Shoma. He doesn't quite command the corners and command the ice. He doesn't fill the ice with as much ice coverage. Although having great fluidity and great skating skills, it's not as grand. And so I feel like it doesn't stand out to me in the same way because of that.
I think he reminds me a lot of a young Yuzuru Hanyu, like physically in terms of that sort of gangly, kind of coltish look on the ice.
Gumby. He's a Gumby.
Pardon me?
He's Gumby.
Yeah. You can see the potential. You can see, what may become. And he certainly loves to skate. I mean, that part is very clear. But even, I remember Yuzuru Hanyu with a Romeo and Juliet program. And the two programs remind me, and they're both choreographed by David Wilson, they remind me of one another. So I think that he's a bit loosey-goosey at the moment, but it sure is fun to think about him a couple of years down the road, even 1 year down the road, as a definite work in progress. I think I saw him for the first time in Korea, maybe at the test event for the Olympics, and the difference even from then to now is really huge. So I think we're going to see some cool stuff come from him.
And he's consistent. He's very consistent for the most part. I mean, that quad toe, get rid of that. You look at all these skaters ahead of him making these big mistakes. He could step into that position if he just, he did land the quad toe at his second Grand Prix event in Finland. So it's not that he doesn't have it, but the consistency just is not there. So I know he wants to try it. I know he wants to put it out there. I know he wants to hopefully land it. But for now, seeing how good the salchow usually is, I don't know why he wouldn't just try a second one. Maybe,
And I really enjoy watching his triple lutz, triple loop. It's so rare to see a male skater doing a triple loop on the end of something. And it's always, I'm not surprised, but I feel like so excited every time he does it. I'm like, ooh, that was so much fun. That was so cool.
And he snaps into it so quickly.
He has so much control on it. Like, it's just so impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's a definite, keep your eye on this space.
I think keep your eye on him for the rest of the season, honestly, because again, all the top skaters are making those really big mistakes. He's one that if he skates a clean short, he's probably going to find himself in the final group at Worlds.
Yeah, and I think that's true.
Yeah, and you never know what's going to happen from there. Michael Brzezinski was fourth place. This is the first time he's in the Grand Prix final, I believe, in maybe 7 years. He has programs this year that he really likes, and I think that's a big takeaway from why he's maybe doing so well this year. We thought he was going to retire after last season. He's come back this season looking stronger than ever. There were a few years where he had absolutely no transitions in his programs. It literally looked like a practice session, and he was going from element to element. And in the last few years, he's started to improve, maybe with the coaching change, maybe with, his stamina's better. He has better spins. The preparation for the jumps, even that second triple axel in the free skate comes almost out of nowhere. And when he lands that jump, he's another one. Beautiful, beautiful triple axel. It is impressive for somebody who was contemplating retirement to come back and improve this much. I just don't see him being a factor in that really top group. I feel like he's kind of like the Jason Brown, where he's going to be somewhere in the middle, maybe within the top 10, but not a medal threat.
He's like Rocky. He went the distance. You know what I mean? Like, we're not expecting him to win.
Yeah.
But good for him for showing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way I feel too. And I feel like it was so disheartening to watch him in the kiss and cry these past few years that I would be watching and thinking oh, come on, Mikhail, stop. Just stop already. It's so sad to watch these kind of meltdown performances again and again. And it was so nice to see this season and to see him have that opening mistake at the Grand Prix final and then get it all back together, which is something we have not seen from him in 5, 6, 7 years. So to me, that just shows how strong of a character and how strong mentally he's become. And I think he has a chance to medal at Europeans.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a spectacular
That'd be
way should he choose to conclude his career at the end of this season.
Absolutely.
And if he continues, I mean, it could be so much fun to watch this revived skater.
We see a lot of skaters now skating into their 30s, maybe not making the improvements that he's made, so you never know. I mean, he still has quad salchow a lot of the time. Didn't have it in the free skate here, but it is a jump that he still has. Let's look at Keegan Messing. He finished in 5th place. I was actually pretty surprised by his short program score. It looked like a good skate to me. And then you see the protocols, and you see that he under-rotated the triple axel, he under-rotated the quad toe, got really hit technically. His score was almost 20 points lower than what it was at Skate Canada. So that kind of put him in a deficit going into the free skate. Great attempt in the free skate though at a quad Lutz. We haven't seen him attempt that before. He rotated it at least. It was he put his hand down, but it was all the way around, and it was a big jump. We know that he has the potential to do it. His quad toe, huge as well. Put his hand down on that, was tilted sideways. Looked like he was a little bit surprised to land it. My question for PJ at Skate Canada was the quad toe at the 3 minutes into the program. It's not working. It has not worked yet. He actually lost Skate Canada probably because he doubled that jump at that event. Here again, we saw he did a double toe. So he's potentially losing, that's 9 points he's losing right there just by doing that. Do you think he should think about rearranging his program and putting that second quad toe earlier in the program?
Yes, but prior to this event, I would have advised him never to try the quad Lutz because I felt like it was an unnecessary risk. But much to my surprise, he did a very good one in the long program. So I take back all of those thoughts that I had, and anybody that I said that to. And I don't I would think of putting the second quad toe where the first triple axel is. But then again, does he have the energy to start a program with quad, and then go into the second half?
Right.
I feel like Keegan needs to find a way to manage his energy when he skates. His long program was really kind of out of control, even though he did a lot of really nice things. He had so many mistakes, and it just got a bit wild. And I feel like he doesn't yet know how to manage his energy and his emotions throughout a long program. And then when that happens, like in the short program, you see Keegan, who has some of, if not the best spins in the world, he just doesn't count them properly and then gets level 2s because he doesn't hold his positions long enough. And that's, I feel like all of this stuff can be so controlled and managed if he's able to control his own energy and emotions as he skates. So I feel like that's more what he's missing than an order of elements.
You know, Meagan, I never thought about things that way, but that is exactly the right way. That's the right way to frame it. When I was watching the short program, and of course we don't have access really to what's going on, once the scores come in, you're kind of thinking, what is that? So it wasn't until after the fact that you realized that there were problems on 2 out of the 3 jump elements. So, and if it is...
Which I did not see the under rotations.
I didn't either. To be honest, I'm all over the under rotations.
Live, I would have never even reviewed it.
Yeah.
I didn't from the monitor. I didn't see it either. So, and then you sometimes think, well, maybe I'm missing something. And it's always different live. I mean, live when you're in the building. But I just, I didn't ever think about that sort of mental factor, that if it's you getting ahead of yourself in your own head, if it's you sort of rather than staying in the moment, somehow you're, jinxing yourself by thinking about what's coming up next. Those are all really good points. Those are excellent points, as a matter of fact, that I wouldn't have considered.
And I think it's worth noting that I don't know if Keegan was ready to take on the pressure of Canadian skating that he ended up having the responsibility of at the Grand Prix final. Whether he knows it or not, or is aware of it or not, as the only Canadian skater that qualified in senior to go to the Grand Prix final, after doing well at the World Championships, to get a second man, still qualified for Worlds, I just feel like he's not ready to handle that as the top Canadian skater. Not just the top Canadian man, but the top Canadian skater this season so far. And I feel like, that's a little bit of an unfortunate position. We've seen Keegan for many years, but last year was really the first time he was competing on the Grand Prix circuit. And then all of a sudden, he has the pressure of Canadian skating on him in some way or another. And I just feel like that's something to think about when, assessing his subpar performances here.
The final skater in the men's field was Sergei Voronov, and he's another one. He is 31 years old now. He has been around forever. I think this was maybe his 12th Grand Prix season, 11th or 12th, something like that.
It's a lot of skating.
It's a lot of skating. It was a sloppy showing by his standards. Usually that quad toe is pretty consistent. It was not here. Even the triple axel was not consistent. He's very old school though, and we've been hard on him all season, but I just don't personally understand how he is getting the PCS that he is. It did drop here. It was at 76 in the free skate, which I was surprised with because typically he's above 80. I still don't get it though. He had a short program earlier this year. He ditched that program. He got new music, but he did not change any of the choreography, so it's the exact same movements, down to the hand movements that he had for the old music. And what does that say though? It's like he's not listening to the music. Free skate, it was choreographed by Dennis Ten. Unfortunately passed away over the summer. I want to like it with that story behind it, but it's just traditional, late 90s, early 2000s men's skating. His choreography is arm movements and 3 turns. And that's not, if I can watch a program and say I can go on the ice right now and basically mimic most of that choreography, it's not difficult. And that's the feeling I get every single time I see him. And I wish he, like Regina, you can be 31 years old, you can be however old, and you can still improve your skating. And I don't think that he's going anywhere. The thing that he does have typically is that he's consistent, and that might find him on the world and European team this year just because of the lack of consistency in his country. But I just wish for more from him.
Yeah, I wish that we saw more baby steps. Sometimes the steps are so small, but they should be noticeable towards improvement. As we're like nitpicking like kind of the details of skating, it would be nice to just see a section of transitions and interpretation. Just a small section and be like, okay, he's trying. But that said, Sergei is a skater that I often find myself rooting for simply because of his story. And I feel like he's kind of been looked over in Russian skating. He's been left aside so many times. But he shows up internationally and he delivers. And I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, he won a medal at the Grand Prix final. And here he is qualifying for the Grand Prix final still. I just have so much respect for him that because I feel like it's such like a nice story, for some reason, I guess I ignore all those faults, even though I know that they're there. Something else that's really interesting of him is that if you watch him practice or do a 6-minute warm-up, he never lands a quad toe. He does it on 2 feet and under-rotated. Every time. Wow. But then he gets on the ice for his programs, and with the adrenaline of the competition, it's always clean. And I just find it so crazy that I watch him do it for years now. In warm-up and in practice, the same. A little under on 2 feet hooked around, but he pulls it off every single time. And it just mystifies me as to how he manages to do that.
Well, the good news is for you, Meagan, is that you love the story and you're forgiving him his faults. The bad news is I'm not.
I know I should not be. I find myself just wishing him well, even though I know his scores will not be as high.
And I really wanted to love that free program too, out of my great affection for Dennis. And I think if Dennis were alive today, he would have helped sort of fill in the gaps in that program. He would have helped to sort of flesh it out a little bit more. So I think that's kind of the magic that's missing. I think that the skeleton is there, and he's working within the framework of the program. But I think that some of the extra little delights that would have been sprinkled on the program obviously are missing with Dennis's passing. So, but in the short program, if I just want to talk about the short program, I almost feel offended when somebody chooses music and really just kind of skates through it at this level. I mean, we're not talking about sort of even a novice or a junior competitor. We're talking about somebody who's very experienced, who's basically saying to me, the spectator, you know what, I don't have to put up my best here for you. I mean, I understand that it's his best for him. It's really about the skater. But there's also a whole audience and judges who are sort of engaged in the activity of watching him. And I just find that, I want you to give me something. Just give me a little something, and I'll be with you. So good for him for making it to the Grand Prix final. I think he's one of those skaters that's able to somehow capitalize on mistakes that happen from others.
Yes.
And again, results are based on, how you can get to the top of the mountain. That's up to you. because that's what this is all about. So good for him for getting there and for being the age and stage that he's at. But be in it to win it. Mean it. If you want it in figure skating, perform like you want me to love it and love you. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me you don't care.
I wonder if he is like just content with what he's doing and he doesn't want to push himself. He's just happy to be at the level he's at. Maybe. Or I wonder if he goes home from the Grand Prix final frustrated with his performance and his program component score and whatever else. And he's like, okay, what can I do to make it better? I just wonder. Or is he going home being like, oh, like that was okay? I mean, I don't know. I don't know him personally, so I don't know.
I want more than okay. I want more than okay. There, I said it.
The thing is, we did say this. He relies on himself being consistent and a lot of the other skaters not being consistent. But what happens is he gets to Russian nationals, and these skaters that were inconsistent the whole fall season, they put it together, and then they pass him by, and then that's why we don't see him at Worlds. And if we're looking at the Russian skaters this year, Dmitry Aliev and Mikhail Kolyada both have an overall package that is really good. Consistency is not there. It hasn't been there yet. But if I'm looking at the first 3 seconds of either of them, their programs, they're doing a million more things than, you know, in the mid 2000s. Really, their choreography was 3 turns and arm movements and kind of overdone, kind of gyrating movements. That's what their choreography was.
Don't take that away.
And but you know what though? He grew up in that time. And I just don't think that he's evolved into what you need to be competitive these days. Everyone's doing quads now. Everybody is. And to be the top 24 in the world, you probably need to at least attempt a quad toe. So having just a quad toe is nothing, and that he's been passed by. And I respect that he is 31 and he's still going and he's consistent most of the time. But I hope for more, and I hope that since he is staying in at such a late age that he would want to make those improvements. So